Nowadays, everybody in South Asia is very much inclined towards what is happening in the West.
Is happening on the West, what the news in the West. That is not the perfect dialogue right now because India is promoted as Ramayana Trail. And Sri Lanka, we are renaming it as Ravana's Trail.
One of the key factors with which people were also transmitting knowledge, not just a tale, but so there were the second were Russians, and after that British.
Wellness tourism we can promote as Sri Lankan Ayurvedic, the traditional medicines.
But that is still one of the prime factor where you are getting the currency exchange. But do you think a country as in all should depend so much on tourism?
These manufacturers can use Sri Lanka as the naval base or the transshipment for the global market. And that is our ancient route, Vaibhav. That's why Sri Lanka from Ceylon tea or just few brands like that. Sri Lanka can make few other brands as well, but from Bharat-Lanka and from our personal efforts, what we are trying to do is to make global brands.
Hello everyone, welcome to the 11th guest episode of Questions Group. I know it has been a while, but welcome again. And this time, it's also our first time to be on YouTube, while we were previously in just podcasting platforms. Thank you again for joining us. Ayubhavan for the people who are listening us from Sri Lanka, and for our Hindi speakers, Namaste, and welcome everybody else. So let's straight away get started with the episode. Today we have with us Maheel Bandara. He is known for his fresh perspective of Sri Lanka's in the vicinity of South Asia and its strategic importance. He is currently also the director of Bharat-Lanka Cooperation, which provides strategic and cooperative support for people trying to venture out between the two countries. Hello, Maheel. How are you?
Pranam. Hi, boy.
So let's get started. So I know basically nowadays everybody in South Asia is very much inclined towards what is happening in the West, and that actually shapes our thoughts and perspective about the global world. But sometimes we refrain from checking out what is happening in the neighborhood, and that's one of the reason this idea of this episode came in, because we should be also looking into what is happening in South Asia at our home and where things are changing, and which will actually impact us more than looking at somebody who is not that close. There should be everybody's personal stake and opinions, but let's get started. So when we think of Sri Lanka, like even for the childhood days, we basically pretty much would put it as a synonym for Lanka, which is Ravana's kingdom, what we say. What is your perspective about the whole epic Ramayana, and how do Sri Lankan perceive it?
First of all, Vaibhak, for the question scoop, I think I should personally respect you guys, thank you guys, because nowadays in this region, as youngsters and the upcoming leaders, we have to more focus on our region first than always focus on the West, what is happening on the West, what the news in the West. That is not the perfect dialogue right now, because with the multipolar world, Indian subcontinent, we have a big role to play in the world right now in the global economy and the global market. So it's a right time to connect two countries as well. We have Sri Lanka, which was bankrupt in last 2 years, but now coming reshaping the economy. We also can tackle up with the Indian economy, and that's the best move that we created through Bharat-Lanka. The special project which we are included in between the two countries is the tourism, promoting the tourism between two countries. So your question which you asked is the number one, I think, between two countries where we, India, it's promoted as Ramayana Trail. And Sri Lanka, we recently we are renaming it as Ravana's Trail by adding some values by Sri Lankan's perspective as well. So Ramayana, I think it's an encyclopedia. The two countries connected, India, which was I think a cluster of kingdoms at that time, and Ravana was one of the kings in the control as well of some of the kingdoms in India. His administrative capital was Sri Lanka. That is the known myth we know, and the stories tell about that. But end of the day, Ramayana connect Sri Lanka and India for the last in our history, and I think some historians, they say it's about 7,000 years. Some says that about who define from astrology and those kind of sciences, they describe this incident happened in 14,000 years ago, according to astrology. However, we have a big history in this subcontinent as India and Sri Lanka. We had a big civilization, Indus Valley, and several other civilizations in this subcontinent. We have a hidden science which Western science cannot identify until now. I think the Ravana story is one of the stories we identify as where the Western science, the modern science, cannot still prove this kind of technology. But there are some enlightened stories. History coming to a story, it will add some more into culture, and the story will be remake. But but from my personal research and there are several authors who did the research in India and Sri Lanka, especially Sri Lanka, which we renamed the Ramayana trail into Ravana's trail. Now we are developing that thing, especially that idea was given to us by the author Bala Sanskruti. These people now, which from my personal research with these people, I think Ramayana is an encyclopedia which at that time, especially the teachers like the authors like Valmiki, I think he's a teacher who explained the subjects at that time, geography, maths, astrology, likewise the subjects to his students based on these stories. Because in Ramayana, if you read Ramayana, the Valmiki's version, it describes about the geography, about the entire global at that time, and there are some maths we can identify, science, astrology, likewise. So I think it's not a story; it's a way of educating the next generation. That's my personal research.
That's some interesting facts and figures you shared with us. And it is also an opinion about a lot of people that technology and the passage of knowledge from one generation to another was happening in different ways. So we could also say Ramayana was one of the key factors with which people were also transmitting knowledge, not just a tale, but also something way above that. And yeah, that you have told me is a very interesting point. Above everything, it was something which reflects our same culture and similar culture between our two nations, and helps to bridge the gap and induce connectivity, which was also there before the times which we remember as geographical path. We can have migration happening from Tamil Nadu or from the northern India. There's different versions of history, but yeah, above everything, it's about connectivity and two countries or kingdoms coming together for something way above what we can say separation. It is like something which unites us in the subcontinent, as you said. When you started with this conversation, you talked about travelers. Thanks to the website which the Sri Lankan government is maintaining, the travelers coming in, I saw the majority of the percentage of the people are from India and a small fraction of that of business too. While also the second were Russians and after that British, which altogether had more than 50% of the total incoming travelers. So why do you think it's just some particular countries which are enjoying this, incoming tourism sector, while also what the country can do even more on their side to utilize these resources which your beautiful country has given us all?
Yeah. I believe that tourism is one of the key areas, key industries we can develop in Sri Lanka. And as I said earlier, we faced a big economic crisis back 2 years back. If tourism we see as a potential area where we can, with our geography and our beautiful beaches and the resources we have, within 3 hours we can go to a nice beach, and again within 3 hours you can come to a cold climate. So I think tourism, we have to more invest on tourism, and Sri Lanka has to strategically identify several places and several trails to improve more tourists, because this is not our capacity. I think last year also we had about just more than 1 million tourists, but this year we are expecting around 2 million. But I think it will pass, the numbers will pass, but there are more countries where we can identify as our partners and encourage their citizens also to come into Sri Lanka and have the experience here. But that will take some time because continuously we faces several incidents. 2019 there was a East attack, bomb blast in Sri Lanka, which had a big controversial hit back in our country's economy and into tourism as well. As you said, number one tourists coming to Sri Lanka is Indians, but that is not the capacity where we can develop with India, because I see that Ramayana trail we discussed earlier as well. Ramayana trail, it's this current number, we can double the current number through Ramayana trail. 1 million tourists will come from India to Sri Lanka if we develop the right program and encourage the Indians to come into Sri Lanka. From North India to South India, there are different kind of Ramayan's stories. So if Sri Lanka can standardize this tourist sector to Ramayana as well as a special project, I think the Indian numbers also we can double it. And with that number, with those tourists, there will be some other industries as well where we can promote, and Sri Lankans can create the wealth through making some international brands, sub-Indian continent brands from Sri Lanka. So I should say this, but Russia, which in our economic crisis, they were the people, they were the country who continuously promote Sri Lankan tourism at that time as well. There were petrol queues and there were power shortage, but Russia, they were supporting us. But now I think after the reshaping the economy and all the things are stable here, and I think we have to go for more and more concepts. Wellness tourism we can promote as Sri Lankan Ayurvedic, the traditional medicines from our ancient times. I should say that it's very good. This Ayurvedic medicine, with the customers, the tourists can get a new experience from the Western medicines than the Western medicine. So these kind of things we can promote here in Sri Lanka. So I think our potential is much more better. We can go for a big capacity if we develop the right projects to identify the strategies to connect partners and develop tourism in Sri Lanka.
Some interesting facts. Like, this is the first time I'm hearing that there is also a Ayurvedic background which is in the epicenter of Sri Lanka. But till now, I thought it was basically more dominated in the Indian region.
But India wellness tourism is now based in more popular in Kerala. Is somewhat similar to Sri Lanka as well. And our Ayurvedic, from our ancient roots, India and Sri Lanka, our Ayurvedic culture, technology is somewhat connected, and our traditional medicines as well. That's a big industry where we can give it to the Western people as well, because, West means stress, depression, and these people are full of financial depression is there. So, and those people can get a big experience in Sri Lanka if we promote the Ayurvedic stuff and the wellness tourism.
Wow. I'm really surprised with what is happening and what is the future potential of the country. Yeah, especially after the COVID, people are much more inclined towards spending a bit more and on themselves, and the spending habits have been also changing, which you can see from the Indian as a country, and which I personally also feel. Yeah, when you are talking about India as a main factor, yeah, like Indian tourists are coming, but there should be a bit more connectivity. I casually checked what are the airports actually connecting Sri Lanka directly, and I was surprised that one of the dominated or the most dominated airport was only the Chennai, which is the closest one, while there is a bit strategic lapse in the connectivity with the airports, especially between Colombo and India, which people can work on. And I'm happy to share that in June already you have crossed 1 million tourists. So by July, and you would be, now the peak season is coming. So yeah, I'm sure that the country will go much beyond 2 million. So when I was talking about tourism. And you have been talking about things that happened in the past, like COVID also, and before that, Easter bombing. And after that, there was a volatile situation because of the political disturbance in the country, which actually was one of the key factors why you were not able to serve the tourists that well because of the lack of facility. But that is still one of the prime factor where you are getting the currency exchange. But do you think a country as in all should depend so much on tourism, which could be a bit volatile, not like it is a big industry as in all. And I'm happy that people are actually so actively engaging in growing that industry. But do you think it's actually the long run vision for Sri Lanka?
For a fact, that Sri Lanka, which is an island, Vaibhagji, that when it comes to the productions and the manufacturing for the global market, especially we have a big market near us, it's the Indian market. So when it comes to cost comparison, so our production will be much higher. Our production cost will be higher than the Indian production. So I think the manufacturing stuff for that as a strategy, if we motivate the manufacturing process in Sri Lanka, I don't think that we can compete with the Indian producer. So as I said, strategically, tourism is one of the big potential industry we can develop, but we cannot, as you said, there will be it's a volatile market, so volatile industry. So if one incident can destroy the whole economy in the country. But I would say every country has to face the challenges. Maldives, it's fully based on tourism. There are some countries where the main industry is tourism, but as Sri Lanka, tourism can be a potential industry, but then the tourism, I see Sri Lanka as one of the key factor, as our location, and especially we have a deep sea ports here in Sri Lanka. So strategically, if we can place our country, brand our country as a transshipment hub to the Indian subcontinent, because India doesn't have deep sea ports. Recently, only I think from the Adani Group with the Kerala government, they invest on Kerala deep sea port. That was a big challenge to Sri Lanka. But Sri Lanka as a country, we missed our opportunity because India, I think more than 2 decades, India were proposing to connect the two countries from a bridge, and from Tamil Nadu to Mana, where the Ram Setu, the ancient bridge is there. So if we connect the two countries, Indian manufacturers can use Sri Lanka because the Trincomalee Harbour is a natural deep sea water harbour, and Colombo as well. So Indian as government, as friends, India was proposing to Sri Lanka to expand or develop these harbours as well, and to connect these the two countries from a bridge. So especially if you can identify the eastern corridor, the south eastern corridor from Chennai, the upper part, there are many investments has come, and the manufacturing is it's booming in those regions. So southern eastern corridor of India, these manufacturers can use Sri Lanka as the naval base or the transshipment for the global market. And that is our ancient route, Vaibhak. That's my personal concern. Why Sri Lanka cannot use our ancient routes? Because our history says in Anuradhapura Kingdom and other kingdoms in Sri Lanka as well, we were actually traders. We were actually the facilitator for traders, where the southern eastern Asians, today we identify as Thailand, Myanmar, as well as China as well. And these people were coming to Sri Lanka to meet their buyers at that time, which came from Western India, and then Persians, Arabs, and Egyptians, and they were the main traders. Even Greeks, when there was a kingdom, there was an empire in Greece. We identify, our historians as identify Roman and Greek coins as well in Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka was at that time as well, Sri Lanka was the market, the facilitator for the market, and we have missed that opportunity right now due to the political intentions and unnecessary political biasness in geopolitics. So right now also we have opportunity. India, I think they are developing a new deep sea port as well in above Chennai.
Okay.
So I think Sri Lanka, then tourism industry, transshipment is a big strategy where Sri Lanka can earn more and more wealth towards the Sri Lankan market. And for that, we have to connect the India and Sri Lanka through a bridge.
History, in fact, teaches us a lot. And you correctly said that we should learn from the history. And at the end, the region should grow as a whole. If we become passionate about sharing the resources, then it would not let us for a collective growth, which you can see is the reason why the balance of the world is tilted towards some economies and some are not. So we have to be together if we want to actually show our upper hand in the global market. When you talked about a deep sea port, yes, in fact, this is something which people in India should actually not just know about it, but actually make their voices heard. Because if collectively we both, our nation people, they know more about what is actually happening and what could actually benefit the people from not just one side, but both the side, we could make some impact. And that could not just help one government or one person, but foster a mutual growth in which both our economies are developing throughout these things. And I'm pretty happy that your country recently has pulled up a progress to certain mean, which I could just debate about. But let's look at the collective picture of what is happening in Sri Lanka right now. The taxes are increasing, the subsidies are cutting down, and the government is kind of trying to shell more money to pay off the loans and have a surplus. But in the long run, it could be the reason why actually the brain drain is happening. So if you are making the country more hesitant towards economic push, then you might be getting more taxes for a short term and you might be having a surplus, but long run you are making the people not push out, but eventually have an inclination to move to a more progressive society or progressive economy, and which in turn is not just a case with Sri Lanka, even that is seen in India and other economies in the whole region as a whole, global south. People are going to a different economy just because the environment over there is not that fulfilling for their needs. What as the people and what as true leaders, which we should be doing so that there is active push towards economic gains and not just stagnant state where maybe you might be earning something right now and maybe you might be pushing each other down and getting some profit over here. But if we think of a long-term vision, what should the both countries be doing?
First of all, we have to identify the geopolitical trends by Bhagjeet. So right now, the previous century, there were some global rules and global powerhouses. They made some global ethics, especially United Nations and other international organizations. So as you said, we are on IMF control right now. IMF, we have framework to follow through IMF to come across from the bankruptcy in Sri Lankan economy. So we have to focus on taxes and we have to follow the IMF guideline. But when it comes to long run, I think that is not the trend in the geopolitics right now, because it is becoming a multipolar world right now, and US could be a big boss in the global economy, but the new countries' economies are rising and new economies are challenging to the global order. So I think last week I saw that Donald Trump, the US president, he's saying a word about taxing India because India is trading the Russian oil. Not Donald Trump, but one of the senators from USA. He was telling that they want to crash the Indian economy because India is trading with Russia, the Russian oil. Those things, I think the world order or the world structure is not more valid right now. That is why Donald Trump, the American president, when he re-elected this time, his approach is totally different. First of all, I studied that he's on a good mission, and as he said, he want to make America great again. He want to make American economy as the monopoly for the world. Those trends we have to identify as countries, because it's as a one country we cannot survive in the global market right now, a global economy. Socialism is not valid anymore, so we have to connect all internationally. We are connected right now. So what we can do as a region, especially Sri Lankan government, I should say, Indian Ocean will be a big demanding area, because it connects from South Africa to Saudi Arabia, India, and then Thailand, Singapore, and Australia as well. So there's a big region where it connects the whole countries and big economies, this Indian Ocean. So as countries, this region, India has a big role to play, and India is the engine for this economy, this regional economy. And I think with the PR of PM Narendra Modi ji, because he's globally, he's a leader, global leader right now. And with his PR, as Sri Lankan government identify, Sri Lankan government also can suggest to India to go for a regional corridor or a regional structure like United Nations, like European Union. We can form a regional structure, regional organization where these all countries can connect each other and use one economic mission to gain more wealth towards their each and every country. So that is, I think, one of the key areas where we can move on as a region. So India has a big role to play on that regional geopolitics. And as I said, Indian Ocean is a blue ocean, blue economy, and $1 trillion, I would say. It's a $1 trillion trade. It's happening in that region, in this region. The international economy, we can have more and more control in this if we form a structure in this region. That is one of my personal ideas as well. From South Africa to Australia, it's a big economies are there. Indonesia, India. So if we form one regional structure, Sri Lanka also gain a big benefit out of it, as well as India.
Thanks a lot for, going through in such an informative way of what is happening in the region, and specifically catering to what is happening in Sri Lanka. I know, as you have rightly pointed out, there is a lot of inward shift for all the nations in the globe. I'm not sure what could be the key factor which I could say, oh, this, because of this, that is happening. But yeah, there is a lot of nationalism going on, and there is a lot of inward shift towards what their country needs, as in all people looking at a collective effort. I would say until now, also with the progress that I'm seeing, India is pretty much fighting back, and it's trying to become better, and as a country, doing much better now. But what is happening when we look at the region? So when it comes to Maldives or Pakistan or Afghanistan or Nepal or Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, yeah, I know there was a very proactive effort by a president to have his first foreign visit to India. And also recently, last week, there were a lot of young politicians which arrived in India. I guess this could be a foresight towards something more collective. But what do you think should be the all in all Sri Lankan's opinion when it comes to BRICS, when it comes to deep sea port, which you rightly pointed out? And there are different players. Like there was also a 99-year lease port, which was kind of a debt trap port, which I could say. And there is also influence from the Indian sectors over your economy. And there is also a bit of misuse of visa, which I could see from multiple news sources, which was happening. So what Sri Lanka should think about BRICS and, taking loans or having a partner, and what could India do in return, to become a better friend, not just the one on papers?
The first factor, I think, when it comes to the region, the South Asian region, so you mentioned a few countries. geopolitically, when it comes to a world order changing, and with these new economic tensions and all the political tensions going on in the world, even USA, Europe, we can see a clear separation and race right now from UK and USA as well. I have found out that there are some trends going on in our region where it makes some unnecessary talks or unnecessary conflict in these countries, not to establish these countries, especially when we take Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, as well as Sri Lanka, Maldives as well. And even I found out inside India also there are some rumors going on. There's a player who coming to our countries and making unnecessary things in our countries to make unnecessary conflict in our countries. So first and all, we face a big crisis here in Sri Lanka. As you said, there were some projects which were taken by some other countries, and we were trapped inside a debt trap. But that is not a threat or not a conflict made by a separate country, I would say, because every country, every powerhouse, when it comes to global economies right now, who are in the top tier, they all have geopolitically, they all have new strategies. So a country like Sri Lanka, which is very tiny, small, and our economy is very small, and influence to the global political dialogue is very small. But what we can do is, as leaders, we have to identify these strategies of different countries. For an example, you say India. So from 2014 to right now, when Modi ji was appointed as the new PM from BJP, so he had a nationalistic, right-wing nationalistic approach to make Indian economy as a global powerhouse. So what Sri Lanka should do, we should identify what is the new vision of the Indian Prime Minister and his government. And we have to identify what is their global narrative. And we have to utilize that strategies and make new strategies to our countries as well, to connect those strategies, global strategies, to gain more profits or benefit to our country. So BRI from China, Belt and Road Initiative, was launched from when Xi Jinping president came into power, and that is their global agenda at that time. So Sri Lanka gained more and more investments, loans for projects from that projects as well from BRI. So what we miss out, I would say, India, China, BRICS, or any country, we haven't utilized that global strategies from these powerhouses. We have our leaders were not that visionary at that time, I would say. When Anura Kumara ji became the president here in Sri Lanka recently, so his first visit was to India, and that was a great move. And I think he should understand the vision what Modi ji is coming up, because this is his third term. And if we can utilize Modi ji's strategies to make India as a global powerhouse, and I would say diplomacy is not the best way to manage global international relations in the current order, because I feel that the figures like Jaishankar ji, Modi ji, where they have a big international PR right now, from their personal relations, what they maintain from their personal relations are the key factor where India gain more and more benefit from other countries. The best example is right now, because India is still trading oil from Russia, and USA and from West, they were attacking India continuously. I think from
And still are.
Like 5-6 years. But Jaishankar ji, as the foreign affairs minister, he was stand in every global media, and he had that stance. Even Modi ji, as the PM, when the US senators they put this reciprocal tariff into every country, and India right now, with trading with Russia, they are strategically having a discussion for a free trade agreement with USA. As well as for the last 5-6 years, India gained more and more investments from USA. I think Ambani's son, there was a big wedding, big investment for a wedding ceremony. That is not just a wedding, I would say. That is a global pitch. Every global top tier investors, companies were there in India. So India is getting new and new moves right now. So Sri Lanka, we have a small stances when it comes to make decisions, because one thing, our economy is fully. We had a crisis, and we are now following a guideline from IMF, BRICS, and other alternative groups. Now we cannot, as a country, we don't have that geopolitical power right now to make such decisions, because this USA tariff also has hit Sri Lankan economy as well. So right now it's I think for the last announcement it is 30%, but still Sri Lankan government is currently negotiating with the USA government to reduce that tariff as well. I think Sri Lanka will have some time, 2-3 years, to come into the normal process, normal run. And this current government in Sri Lanka, which came to power for the first time in our history, and they are maintaining a good non-aligned relationship with every country which I identify. Even with China and India, they are not aligned to one country. They are maintain a good relationship, I would say, but there are some things we have to improve as a country, because the investors should come. Investors, we have to as be bankrupt 2 years back. Any investor coming here, we have to get him to on a red carpet. We have to invite them on a red carpet, not blaming them. So we messed up a few investments last couple of years, I would say, especially Adani's project, the renewable energy project, which was discussed a few years back, and the last government, they had agreed on a certain number and finalized the investment as well. But this government came, and even the president here in Sri Lanka blamed Adani and his investment, but that is a wrong move done here in Sri Lanka. So I think that is a bit toward the inexperience, and as the first time government, Anukumara Disanayaka, the current president, have another chance. I think he should speak with India and gain Adani or any investor here, because if Sri Lanka can special areas the renewable energy, we have a big capacity in renewable energy. So investors like Adani, if he's going to invest on something here in Sri Lanka, that will give to other global investors that Sri Lanka is good to move on. And those global investors have a confidence on making more profit out of investment here in Sri Lanka. So, and we have to connect Sri Lanka and India, this grid connectivity as well, where Sri Lanka is going to connect to the subcontinent electric grid. So those things we have to identify. And not like previous governments, previous controls, where Sri Lanka miss out on global strategies and global geopolitical moves. From my side, what I am trying to do is our whole journey is in Sri Lanka is a competition between our local manufacturers or the local businessmen. Sri Lanka haven't gone into the global market still. I would say there are no international brands. If we tell to a tourist or a foreigner, this is Sri Lanka, they memorize Sri Lanka from Ceylon tea or just few brands like that. Sri Lanka can make few other brands as well, but from Bharat-Lanka and from our personal efforts, what we are trying to do is to make global brands where Sri Lankan youth as ventures can connect to us, and we are trying to connect these two countries as well, because India is a big market. There's a 1.5 billion market near to us, And but I see Sri Lanka as a manufacturer in prestige productions, especially gem and jewelry and other high-end products we can manufacture here in Sri Lanka. So those things we can compete as well, and that's it.
Yeah. Okay. So it's first of all very, very, very intriguing conversation, and I wish the people who are listening to us or watching to us could actually understand, because when a company is has a lot in stake, and when it's a tough situation, there are some strategic moves that a country should be making, and it should be happening fast. It's not like we have a lot of time in play, and identify things, the global scenario, and not just the global scenario. Not I'm not in global scenario. There is not only the West that is there. It should be what is happening in the region and what is actually the need of the country. Yeah, you rightly pointed out through a lot of context, like what is happening in Nambani wedding. Yeah, I know, like it was marketing in a different way, but it could be also said. I don't want to oversay, but it could be also said as a investor summit. But this is somewhat what people could understand if they are looking at these events, not just an isolated events. Look at a global picture, and that's what I want. I wish everybody else looks, because if we are able to understand what is need, what actually the country needs, we will be not swayed upon by some political ideologies or some short-term vision, but actually we could have a better knowledge of what is needed, and that's what we can push the government with for and with what comes to the government. They should recognize these key elements, and different approaches different countries are taking for their benefit, so that we can not just take a defensive maneuver, but also proactive benefiter out of it. So what I would say in all is, if we understand everything, we can make rest the public, and we can build up the public opinion, so they can in fact trigger a lot of changes, because the change happens at local level first. I'm so happy that you are bridging the two countries by your cooperation, Bharat-Lanka Cooperation, and in fact, it's something we all wish grows ahead much more. So, coming to the end of our conversation, I would like to ask you specifically, when you are building up this corporation, don't you think India's involvement in its own terms with LTTE and Indian peacekeeping forces and its stance for Sri Lanka come as a baggage of, actually the two country meeting up at a pivot, or at a junction, or there is a way out? And how, as you as a corporation, helping people out, and what exactly are you doing to bridge the country? Can you just give me a bit more in depth about that?
Yeah, good point you made, Vaibhajit. So, last 70 years in India and Sri Lanka, after our independence from British, the same years we got independence from British India and Sri Lanka. So last 70 years we have missed several incidents. Our relations would be, we have some wrong decisions made in our history, but history is history. We can argue about history. India came into Sri Lanka and supporting these things, but I think we have to move forward, because history is not that last 70 years, right? After the independence, it is not the history we had each other, because India and Sri Lanka, we have a huge history for the last 5,000, 6,000 years. So I think the next moves are the most important thing, because technology is rising, and the science is getting advanced day by day. If our country's leaders agree on certain points or certain specific strategies, we can move on. That will benefit to the common people in this region, in Sri Lanka and India. We can argue, even in Sri Lanka, it's still there with our elder generation, that India did this thing, and they influence on us politically on these eras. But if we go into a normal market in Sri Lanka. It is about all Indian goods. So influence is there every time, but we have to manage. That is the leadership. That's why we are, as a sovereign country, we are selecting the leaders from indirect democracy. We are selecting our leaders in Sri Lanka as a sovereign country. So our leaders should manage those things, geopolitical tensions and everything. As I said earlier, diplomacy would not work in the current world, but PR would work. The leaders' PR and personal relationships with the foreign leaders would work. So I would say Modi ji and his team will be more and more efficient, and they will be more friends with Sri Lanka. India don't want to touch our sovereignty. India want to make a good friendship with Sri Lanka with our strategic location and as a neighbor. So we have to utilize that friendship, and if Sri Lankan government could identify that friendship and utilize that friendship, and rising Indian economy was every time we cannot beg from the India or any country. We cannot be beggars in time. So we have to identify our perfect strategies, and that's why I wanted to motivate Sri Lankan private sector and private sector youngsters as well. We have make a bridge with Indian market. There's a BNI business networking we have done. So there's a big market in India. Let's go and capture this market and gain more wealth out of it. We'll trade with Indian traders. We'll trade in the Indian market. So get ready for that. BLC will support you.
Perfect, perfect, perfect. That was a good way to slowly come to the end, but
Yeah.
also give way towards what the endless ocean is all about, like endless opportunities that both our people are having, especially the youngsters. We
Yeah.
should move forward and think much larger, think at the bigger picture, and think important it is to focus on the future for the benefit of not just us, the next generation coming on. We are definitely the one which will be the prime benefactor, but we have to also pass the same or the improved version of the progress to them and give them indeed the opportunity to just move forward.
Yeah.
And yeah, we could not just look at some small incidents which are happening in the past. We should look at the bigger history, which were dates like century old, and we should not extract a particular event and make our conclusions and draw our opinion about different countries. Yeah, we would definitely be looking forward how, and especially the viewers and the listeners, let's focus on how we can connect. And if there is something we can pull up together, yeah, we should be looking on that. It lets us all benefit and move forward. Yeah. Coming to benefiters, a lot of people came and a lot of people went away. We both were colonies and we know what it feels like to be decolonized. So we should strengthen ourselves, make sure our whole public is more self-dependent and they know how to take decisions and they are well capable of taking decisions. We should set up that environment for all of us. Yeah, a lot of people came, Britishers came, Portuguese came, Dutch came, and at the end we are still there. So it could show our strength as a region, and we will fight back. It's not fighting back, it's just showing us that we can also do stuff if we all join hands. So, in fact, it was such an amazing conversation. Let's wrap up, but with the last question. I know I've seen recently you have been promoting Buddhist tourism. And I've
Yeah.
recently also seen the movie Devi Kusamasana. Hopefully, I'm not mispronouncing the word.
Daily
Yeah. I guess you would be more perfectionist at that pronunciation. Tell me something which Indian public should watch, some movies or entertainment which they can get more glance of Sri Lanka. And if they want to travel, where should they travel? Give us some glance, and then we can just call it a day and say that it was wonderful conversation.
Yeah. First and all, to wrap up the conversation, personally, I would respect you guys as a young team making this conversation, the geopolitics in our region, and thank for your effort as well. Personally, my personal effort and as a team, I think India and Sri Lanka, our youngsters should connect each other through several mediums, and we have to motivate this narration where we can go for a regional economy and make benefit out of it. So your question. So Indians, the listeners from India, if you want to get an experience from about experience as it is in London, you come to Sri Lanka and get an experience from Noor Elia. If you want to go like Venice or like a beach in Maldives, come here to Sri Lanka and go to down south, Galle, Mirissa. There are many beaches you can get that experience. And if you want to go for surfing and get a big experience, new experience, go to Arugambe, the eastern beaches in Sri Lanka. So if you want to travel and get the experience in our heritage, and you can go to Anuradhapura, Sigiriya. There's a kingdom in Sigiriya. You can see that archaeological sites as well. South Indians, you are very welcome to Jaffna. It is now a beautiful place. Kites that there's a big as well as Buddhist. As you said, I'm promoting Buddhist tourism in Sri Lanka and India both. So especially in Sri Lanka, we have a history from Buddhism, and our temples, we are connecting our temples to promote tourism and attract more and more tourism from mindfulness and spiritual tourism and wellness tourism as well. The listeners, you can come to Sri Lanka and go to there's Temple of the Tooth, the last kingdom of Sri Lanka, as well as Lord Buddha's relic is there. So you can get that experience, as well as Anuradhapura. There's Ruwanalisaya and Sri Mahabodhi, which was we are connecting to Sri Mahabodhi is connected to India, and that history also there. This experience you can get here in Sri Lanka, and recently Sri Lanka is going to open our new casino as well in Colombo. So financial years and all the people who want that experience as well in India, the Indians, if you want that experience, come to Sri Lanka and you can get that casino experience as well. There are a few other casinos as well, and investors especially. If you want to get big benefit, our country is open to you. You can come here and invest and get long-term business here in Sri Lanka. So as well as business, the other sector, film industry, cultural industry. So Sri Lanka is not, our film industry is not big as India, but there are several new creations have done by our Sri Lankan artists and our producers. One film I recently watched was Valampuri. That's a singular movie. I'll share some of the flyers and other details as well to you, Vaibhakji, and you can publish those things as well in a link in YouTube as well. So Valampuri, I would really recommend. And there was a singer in Sri Lanka known as Clarence. So there's in 80s. So his life story also now have been filmed again, remake again. So Clarence, the Rhythm of the Guitar, that is the movie name. So that also on theaters right now. You can watch that movie as well. Not only Sri Lankan movies, I think Sri Lanka is a big audience to Indian movies as well. So I'm waiting for a few movies. Had some rumors that KGF 3 is coming. So I'm waiting.
And indeed, Ramayana is also coming next year. So yeah.
Ramayana.
Yeah.
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 Ravana, right? Yash.
Yeah. Yes. I definitely feel like you will like it when it comes for your liking of KGF. So it was.
I would like that every time Ramayana remaking, it's the same story. Why wouldn't an Indian director come into Sri Lanka? We can film the Ravana story as well.
Why not? Why not? If somebody is one of the connected person to the film industry, hopefully we need somebody.
For the interested people who's in Ramayana and these cultural interested people, I'll give a small fact to end the conversation. So in our story about Ravana, he's a good devotee for Lord Shiva. I think in the Shivaism and the devotees of followers of Shiva, Lord Shiva, all believe that Ravana is the ultimate devotee for Lord Shiva. So recently I found out, you can Google this information. So Lord Shiva was, his palace or the place he was there is Mount Kailash. So there's a mystery in Mount Kailash. You get the Google and get the longitude and latitudes. the exact location about Mount Kailash. So there's a story in Sri Lanka where Lord King Ravana, his palace was, from our myth, our story, it says that his palace was Lakegala, that is situated in Matale and Kandy, that region. So that kingdom or that place in our story, that they say that Lord Ravana got his enlightenment or the powers from the place called Lakegala. So you search in Google Lakegala exact longitude and latitudes as well. You will see exact same line where we can connect Mount Kailash and Lakegala in same straight line.
Okay.
So that is that on those time, if it is 5,000, 6,000 years back, there was no satellites, there was no Google Maps, nothing. But there's a history behind these things, because two independent locations cannot be connected like that. So you can search that place as well. So I wouldn't miss this opportunity. People who are interested on Ramayana, you can come here. Because recent trend says that the travel industry has been personalized right now. People are planning their trips personally. We can go for a hike in Sri Lanka to Lakegala, Yahangala, places where Ravana is there. So you can come here and expedite these places. That will not still not identify as a trail here in Sri Lanka. So you can come here, contact us. We'll facilitate you.
Definitely, I will be staying in touch. And it's not, I don't know about the rest, but I will definitely personally visit that particular place and see what a fascinating history is originating from our region. Yeah, it's amazing. And by this, Mark, and a question to ponder about what was actually in the Mount Kailash and how did that things actually coincide? We all can, just look into it and, carry on the conversation with the people we know with this fascinating fact. So, indeed, it was a great honor to have you on this podcast. And I hope it was not just in our best interest, but people actually got to know and got to learn something new and something which they should be learning. And hopefully, we can carry out the conversation amongst our friends, amongst our family, and everybody else in the locality we are having. Saying that, let's see where India and Sri Lanka are leading forward, and hopefully, let's bridge the gap and let's connect with each other and just question and learn how to question with the authorities and hope everything goes best for both of our countries and we have a future where we can be both proudly saying we made a difference. Thank you. Thank you, Maheel, for coming. Thank you, all the listeners, for listening and staying for us till the end. And thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your immense support. Please share and like and, see you. See you later and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.